Hello, and thank you for listening to this episode of the Moore's October Rants. Today's episode is going to be titled Difficulties of Being Honest. Honesty is a complicated thing. On one hand, we're taught that truth is the foundation of trust, integrity, and morality. But in reality, being honest can sometimes get you into trouble, make people uncomfortable, or even put you at a disadvantage. It's no wonder people feel pressured to sugarcoat their words, tell white lies, or even outright deceive others just to keep the peace or protect themselves. But does that mean we should abandon honesty altogether? Or do we need to rethink when and how we tell the truth? I recently watched a YouTube video where a guy talked about honesty in job interviews. His argument was simple. You can't be fully honest with employers if you actually want the job. You have to tell them what they want to hear. If you were completely upfront about your weaknesses, frustrations with past jobs, or even just your true personality, you'd likely be passed over for someone who knew how to play the game. That raises a bigger question. If honesty is supposed to be the best policy, why does it often feel like a liability? History is full of examples where telling the truth didn't end well. Take Jesus, for instance. He called out corruption, challenged authority, and spread a message based on truth, and he was crucified for it. That's an extreme example, but it proves a point. Sometimes honesty is dangerous. Speaking the truth can cost you friendships, jobs, opportunities, and in some cases, even your life. So where do we draw the line? Some people believe in radical honesty, telling the truth no matter the consequences. They value truth over comfort, even if it means facing backlash or hardship. Others take a more cautious approach, understanding that while honesty is important, survival often requires a little flexibility. And then there are those who outright avoid the truth when it's inconvenient. They justify their dishonesty as a necessary evil, something they do to protect themselves or others from unnecessary pain. One everyday example of this dilemma is when a woman asks for an opinion on her appearance. If you tell her she looks better in a different dress, she might get offended, even though she asked for an honest answer. It's one of those situations where honesty backfires. Did she really want the truth, or just validation? And should you be blamed for giving her the answer she said she wanted? This brings up another issue. Do people really want the truth? We live in a world where many people prefer comfort over reality. They lie to themselves about their health, their relationships, their abilities, because the truth would force them to face things they're not ready to deal with. People say they value honesty, but when confronted with an uncomfortable truth, they often reject it. Take food, for example. If you love eating something unhealthy, it's easier to keep enjoying it than to research how bad it really is for you. The truth might force you to change your habits, and that's uncomfortable. So many people simply choose to remain ignorant. It's not that they don't know the truth exists. They just don't want to deal with it. But honesty isn't just about facts, it's also about perception. Some things are undeniably true. We breathe air. We need food and water to survive. These are facts, not opinions. But then there are things people claim are true that are actually just subjective opinions. Saying someone is unattractive, for example, isn't a universal truth. It's an opinion. Yet many people confuse their opinions with objective reality, leading to pointless arguments and misunderstandings. This is especially frustrating when people try to impose their subjective views as truth. If someone insists that their opinion is the truth, you can try to argue, but it usually goes nowhere. It turns into a circular argument where neither side will budge. At that point, you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Most of the time, the answer is no. I was listening to a story on public radio about a father and son who always argued because the father was a conspiracy theorist. No matter what evidence the son presented, his father refused to accept it. That's the problem with arguing over truth versus opinion. When people are deeply attached to their version of reality, facts don't matter. And if facts don't matter to someone, what's the point of debating? That's why I've learned to pick my battles. If someone is determined to believe their opinion is the absolute truth, correcting them is usually a waste of time. It doesn't mean they're right. It just means they're not willing to listen. Instead of getting sucked into an argument, sometimes it's better to just walk away. At the same time, I do my best to be honest. I try to be truthful with myself and with others. But I also recognize that complete, unfiltered honesty isn't always practical. Sometimes, lying is necessary. In extreme cases, it can even save lives. Take a life or death situation, for example. If someone is armed and dangerous, and you have a chance to mislead them to protect yourself or others, would you do it? Of course. There have been real cases where lying saved lives. One example is during the Sandy Hook shooting, when a teacher told the gunman that the kids were in the gymnasium when they were actually hiding. That lie may have saved dozens of lives. On the flip side, lying can also destroy lives. History is full of cases where deception led to disaster, whether it was lies that started wars, ruined reputations, or caused innocent people to suffer. Lies can be protective, but they can also be destructive. So where does that leave us? Is honesty always the best policy? I don't think so. Life is too complex for a one-size-fits-all rule. There are times when telling the truth is the right thing to do, even if it's hard. And there are times when withholding the truth, or even bending it, might be necessary. It all depends on the situation. At the end of the day, honesty is about balance. You have to weigh the consequences of telling the truth against the impact of a lie. Some lies are harmless, others are devastating. And sometimes honesty isn't just about what you say, it's about how and when you say it. Because in a world where truth can be both a weapon and a shield, knowing when to use it is just as important as knowing what it is. Anyways, thank you for listening to this episode of the Moors October Rants. Signing out. Have a good one, guys. Goodbye for now.